Weapons is a movie that I was interested in, but decided to fully delve into after Juliet happened to be picked out of thousands of people to receive a package from the social media team. I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone who has been deeply following the advertising Weapons since it began, and there are some conclusions that I've already come to that I'll try to explain to you and justify throughout the video. What I'm about to share with you is what I've discovered from their marketing and Maybrook missing, my analysis of the trailers and posters, what was inside of our package, and what I believe this movie is really about. On April 14th, strange images began to circulate on the internet. The first was an alarm clock glowing in the dark, signaling that it was 2:17 a.m. The second is the camera feed of a front door. The third, a black and white photo of a baseball team with their captain. The fourth, someone watching someone else. The fifth and the final one that did draw the most attention of the bunch, a child running in the street with their arms almost perched out like an airplane. All 5 of these posts had the same caption reading, quote, "And they never came back. #Weapons movie." This was the start of the cryptic ad campaign for the late summer release Weapons from director Zach Greger, who is previously known notably for the 2022 release Barbarian. While these seemed incredibly strange and started to garner some attention, it wasn't until the next day that the name would start to trend. You see, on April 15th, New Line Cinema's Instagram would release 3 pieces of CCTV footage. All 3 are children running through the night with their arms perched up just like the previous image. However, with this being footage instead of a still image, we learn just how odd and creepy this truly is. The children's arms are almost completely still in the positions they're holding them, and they're all running at a really good pace. This raises many questions for many audiences. Why is this happening at 2:17 a.m.? Why are these children running this way? What is going on with this ominous-looking house? Many of these questions would be answered not even a week later when New Line Cinema would drop our first teaser of the movie. It showcases more footage of the children running away, this time giving us a crystal clear view instead of through CCTV footage. And it plays a conversation between a man and someone named Mr. Graff, who, when taking a quick look at the IMDb page, will show his full name is Archer Graff, and he's played by Josh Brolin. He seems to be looking for his child the best he can, and has come to the conclusion that the children willingly ran out of their houses, no force, no pressure, nothing like that. The trailer ends with Mr. Graff asking the person what they see that he doesn't. Throughout the trailer, their words have a red letter in it forming an anagram that, when rearranged, spells weapons. And at the end of the teaser, we're told that for more information to go to maybrookmissing.com. Here at the website, we're given a lot more information about what's going on in this movie. In the small town of Maybrook, 17 children disappeared, all at 2:17 a.m. I'm sure it's no coincidence that they left at 2:17 a.m. either. It seems that 2 a.m. is generally regarded as a time for meditation and spirituality, and 17 is clearly related to these 17 children. Also on the page is again the CCTV still image of the door to that house, which clearly is hinting that this is the place these kids are going. As for why, well, we don't know yet, but the last piece of new info on this site could tell us something about where they're going in the house. At the bottom of the page is a shot from Barbarian that reads, "Underground prison discovered in rental home." This article talks about how Tess Marshall, the lead of Barbarian, had found a series of underground tunnels in a home in Detroit. After her discovery and being taken in for treatment of her wounds, the article mentions how the city has announced they'll inspect similar abandoned properties throughout that neighborhood. This stands out for more reasons than it may initially appear. For one, this tells us that the events of Barbarian are canon to Weapons. This could be just a neat little tie-in to bring in viewers of that movie, or it could potentially lead to tie-ins for future movies by Greger. But what immediately stood out to me is the location. Barbarian takes place in Detroit, Michigan, while Weapons takes place in Maybrook, New York. Why would Maybrook's news page be sharing an article for events in a town nearly 10 hours away? It's simple. The children must be going into the basement of the house we keep seeing in the CCTV still. Most of the campaign as of late seems to have a lot of thought put into it, with many recent pieces being directly related to what likely goes on in the movie. So having this here for any other reason wouldn't make sense unless it was meant to cue us in on this. Although alternatively, they could totally just be trying to connect them for more money. I mean, that's totally possible. Outside of the headliner and this bit about basements, there's nothing else on the webpage for now. There's nothing in the source code if you inspect the element on the page. There is a sign up button, which I signed up before back when I discovered this website, although I've never received an email of any kind in the, 3 months that it's been under operation. This won't be the last time we visit this webpage, however, but it is probably the only time there is a reasonably important update to it. To add to the mystery of what's going on with this website, on April 28th, Weapons would drop an unlisted YouTube URL on their Instagram story. Here, you can see in detail the kids going missing on CCTV footage being watched by somebody. This someone is Mr. Graff again, who you can make out sometimes in the reflection of the screen. The video is a 6-minute loop for over 2 hours, and every 6 minutes it will play a still image of the baseball team from the first day of the marketing. It's pretty sad when you realize that this is likely Mr. Graff desperately trying to find out what happened to his child. On April 29th, we got the first trailer for the film, and this one opened the gates for a lot to be revealed. The 17 missing children came from one classroom at school that belonged to Justine Gandy, portrayed by Julia Gardner. There is a parent-teacher conference that doesn't seem to be going well, where we get to see Mr. Graff for the first time, and he isn't very happy, as he questions why it was only her class that disappeared. Pretty reasonable question, to be honest. The trailer doesn't explicitly draw any hard details to anything, but a few things that do stick out to me are what I'm about to discuss. When a group of kids are walking into the school, we see that the school mascot is a blue goat. Off the bat, we know that this means something satanic is probably going on in this film, since historically goats are always associated with demonic entities or the devil. We see Miss Gandy in her car crying, watching the kids running out of a classroom. Well, all the kids are running except for one, and it is the one the camera is clearly trying to draw focus on. Looking at IMDb, it's easy to assume who this kid is because he's one of the only named kids, Alex Lilly. He seems to appear later on in the trailer inside of a nightmare of Gandy's, signaling that he may be important to the children going missing. We see a red marker circle a house marked H034, which, if I were to guess, is the house we've seen a few times in the marketing already. Then we see Miss Gandy peering into a house that has newspapers up on its windows. Again, we can assume that this is the house we've seen a few times in the marketing so far, and this supports that the house is supposed to be abandoned, much like the house in Barbarian was. A child is shown for a split second taking the names off the bins in Miss Gandy's room, which I have no clue what this could mean. I'll be completely honest. Could be anything. Then we see Mr. Graff watching something. Through the reflection in his glasses lens, it appears to be footage of one of the kids running away from home, likely through a Ring camera. This ties back to the previous 2 hours of looking at footage that was just a 6-minute loop. The next shot is of a boy on a baseball team, followed by Mr. Graff again with him asking, "Matthew, where are you?" This also circles back around to confirm that Mr. Graff did lose a kid through this event, and that the baseball image from earlier is in reference to his family. The next image is of a ton of children breaking out of a house, chasing an adult. The kids break out of none other than the house we've seen in the marketing a few times already, confirming to us that this is where the children have all gone and are hiding. Who they are chasing in the scene, I'm not too sure, but if I had to guess, it would be Miss Gandy. There is a small sequence of a man running through the town the same way we've seen the kids run. What's odd is that at first, we're shown a police officer with sirens blaring, but the sirens continue to play as we switch away from them. In the rear view mirror of this next shot, we clearly see Mr. Graff chasing after the person who is running this way as they get slammed by a car. We see a close-up of a person, one who I cannot recognize, but they are clearly wearing the blue of the person that was being chased by the children previously, meaning that this isn't actually Miss Gandy. I don't even have the slightest idea of who this person could be from this brief shot, but it's clear they're being attacked by the kids right after they broke through the windows of this house. Is this an adult who maybe just knew too much, or is this the person responsible for it all? The house's front door is shown again, with someone sprinting out of it holding something. The person in the scene, according to IMDb, is Anthony, portrayed by Austin Abrams. I'm not sure what he's carrying, but he seems to have maybe escaped from that house somehow. Later, we see someone choking someone else while puking up black. No idea what this one means yet. Then, at the 1-minute 39-second mark, I think we get the answers for a lot of things in this trailer. There's a woman in a kitchen with a newspaper on her window, completely covering the whole thing. Candles are lit all around the kitchen table as sparks fly off of her, and she has a medicinal grinder to mash herbs or stuff like that. Looking her up on IMDb, one of the only characters that looks similar to this lady we learn is named Gladys Lilly, portrayed by Amy Madigan. Watching her as a child, one that we can assume is Alex Lilly because they're likely related given they have the same last name. Gladys is wearing a pink outfit, one that seems to be similar to the one the children were chasing, which means she is the one the children were attacking on the ground. Normally, I would assume she's a victim, like like the other adults in this film, but a few things in this short shot tell me that likely isn't the case. The first, the newspapers on the window. As we've talked about time and time again through this video, the house the children go to appears to be abandoned from the outside. Having newspapers on the walls shows that this building, to people outside of it, looks uninhabited. The second, she clearly is performing a ritual of some kind based on the medicinal grinder, the myriad of lit candles, and the giant spark right in front of her. The third, and this one we haven't talked about yet, the soup cans on the counter behind her. As I mentioned, I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone who has followed this campaign for some time now. Cans of soup appear many times in the advertising, with some characters purchasing them, it being the key in some posters, and it being what Juliet received in her package from the weapons social team. The cans being here is no coincidence. Her performing a ritual, her being who the children attack, and her living in the house that is abandoned all point to this character here being the antagonist of the film, Gladys Lilly. The only thing right now, though, is we have no idea why she's doing this, or what she's doing it for. Is she luring the kids to her basement to sacrifice them to a god of hers? Perhaps she is a Satanist, similar to Longlegs from last year. I would infer this based on the goat appearing as the school mascot. It's hard to say right now what her purpose is, though. The next shot is of a woman who is repeatedly stabbing herself in the cheek with a fork, which we can assume she is possessed, much like the man who was running in the city. The next few shots play so quickly and so fast that you have to slow the trailer down to 0.25 to really get a feel for what the fuck is happening here. The next shot, which plays for only a second, appears to be Gladys again. This time, she's wearing a wig, or at least I think so, and she's wearing makeup too. It doesn't appear to serve much purpose outside of giving us a better look at her face. The next is a bell with a symbol of some kind on it. Based off the lighting and the wallpaper in the background, this seems to be at Gladys's house and right above where she's doing the ritual. If I was to guess, this bell is what summons the kids to her house on the fateful night at 2:17 a.m. I can't make out what the symbol is though, because it flashes on the screen just too quickly, making it very blurry. The next is Mr. Graff on the concrete and being pulled by a force we can't see. The next is a character from earlier in the trailer, Principal Andrew, the principal of Maybrook Elementary, and he was trying to help Gandhi from the mob of upset parents. Here, however, he seems to be possessed, as he's seen punching a door through the window of a car. His eyes are bulging out and his face is covered in blood. In fact, from the outfit he's wearing, it's very likely he was the one who was hit by the car earlier in the trailer. The next frame is him finishing the punch into none other than Miss Gandhi's car, turning on the very person he was trying to protect. I'm not sure what this could mean. If we are to assume that he's possessed by the same thing that's possessing the children, that means that Gladys is in control of him. If she is, she must be attacking Gandhi for some purpose. Maybe Gandhi's just too close to figuring out what's going on in the city. Again, this is assuming that Gladys is behind everything and she does have some type of supernatural power, but that seems to be what's implied here. To end the trailer, the house we keep bringing up, that I'll just call the Gladys house, opens the doors up to invite us, the viewers, inside. The Maybrook Missing website updated on this day as well to further elaborate on the parent-teacher meeting. We learned that the group of kids that disappeared were all third graders, and that Miss Gandhi had just transferred to the school after a recent incident at her previous school, setting her up to be the perfect scapegoat for why the kids disappeared. Outside of that, nothing new is on the website at all. Okay, so let's recap this real quick. Gladys Lilly seems to be a Satanist of some kind that rings a bell to lure the children to her house at 2:17 a.m., where she then stores them in her basement, similar to that of Barbarian. One of the kids that goes to the school is somehow related to Gladys, and his name is Alex. The kids that disappeared all belonged to the classroom of Miss Gandhi, one of those kids being the son of Mr. Graff. The town begins to blame Gandhi for what happened, and so Gandhi and Graff start to search around for what's going on in the city. Somehow, Principal Andrew becomes possessed and begins to go after Gandhi, and something seems to happen to Mr. Graff. For an unforeseen reason, the kids turn on Gladys and chase her out of her house and seem to kill her. The things we don't know are how Principal Andrew got possessed, who Anthony is and how he ended up in Gladys's house, why Gladys is doing the things that she's doing, what purpose Alex Lilly serves in any of this, what the fuck is going on with these cans of soup, and what happened to Gandhi and Graff. The trailer gives an absurd amount to work with. Honestly, maybe too much. When I first watched this trailer, I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't really pay attention to a lot of the deeper details in it. But stopping to watch it again and again, slowing parts down and repeating certain parts of the trailer, it starts to show us us everything we'd need to know to solve the movie's plot, and it's only going to get easier to depict what will happen in the movie from here on out. After this, everything seemed to go dormant until 2 months later on June 23rd. Added to the website is a breaking news section, the only new addition, in fact, outside of a fun little cursor of a kid running. Kind of a bummer, again, that the Maybrook missing website update is nothing really of importance, but it does still give us some good information. It takes whoever clicks it to a video that was streamed a month ago on Warner Bros.' channel. The video in question is simply titled, "Are You Watching?" It is, funnily enough, 20 minutes and 25 seconds long, again pointing to the specific times things take place in this film having some type of meaning, because, I mean, 20 minutes and 25 seconds is just 20-25. The first few minutes seem to just be static images of children running that we've seen everywhere in the marketing, but at the 2-minute 17 mark, it changes. We are transported into what I assume is the inside of the Gladys household, because based off of the newspaper printings on the window being very similar to the one we see in the kitchen where she operates. Here, a young girl seems to be feeding 2 adults a bowl of something. Looking at IMDb, none of these characters seem to be anyone named, so it is very unlikely that they exist outside of this video and probably aren't relevant to the movie. The contents of the trailer, though, explain something very important in the movie. The adults are completely unmoving and only seem to open their mouths to be fed by this mystery food. At 3:49, we see what that something is. Soup, specifically the kind where the noodles are little shapes of some kind. Just in case we were confused, at 5:05, the camera cuts to an opened soup can on the floor. So this child is possessed, clearly, and the soup is hinted to have contributed to their possessions. By feeding the parents the soup, the parents are likely becoming possessed just like Andrew was in the official trailer. This cues us in that somehow, with the cans that were in her kitchen, Gladys is possessing the people in Maybrook through soup. At around 6:53, the feed cuts to a fork. In the trailer, we see the 2 parents stabbing themselves in the face with forks. My guess is that once the soup has digested in its host, the possession disappears. So these parents that stabs themselves must be about to break free from their possession, and they're inflicting pain on themselves to try and completely regain control. At 7:05, the father picks up the fork at the table and begins to go for his face before the young girl makes him pull it away from himself. Again, this is extremely similar to the lady who stabbed herself repeatedly in the face with a fork from the official trailer. At 13:14, we see a fuck ton of opened Campbell's soup cans, meaning this girl has been feeding them a lot of soup. Around 14 minutes in, she comes in and gives both parents some water. Every time the child runs out of soup, she goes somewhere off screen to where we can't see, and a weird sound can be heard. The footage feed ends at 17:22, as with the footage having 2:17 at the top right corner. It cuts out because the father grabs the fork on the table and successfully goes in to stab himself on the cheek. After this, Zach Gregor himself gives us a thank you and an exclusive early look at the next trailer. Here we see just how angry the parents of Maybrook are, saying that Gandhi should be locked up until she confesses about what happened. Again, town putting blame at Gandhi. She explains that she wants an answer just as bad as the parents, and I personally believe her saying that she has nothing to do with their disappearances. Mr. Graff doesn't believe her though, and I mean, I don't blame him. Why would 17 kids for one classroom disappear? There is a clear indicator that there is a $50,000 reward for the kids having gone missing, which puts a huge incentive on someone to find them. So naturally, I'm sure someone in the town is going to be looking to get that cash money. We're shown police searching the town, and some emphasis is put on a storm drain, with there clearly being something in the water outside of it. It's hard to make out what it is specifically, but it's clearly an article of clothing. I'm not really too sure what the point of this storm drain could be though, or what it could further imply. We see as Miss Gandhi watches Alex and Lily running up to the Gladys house we've seen time and time again in these trailers, but this just confirms to us that he is related to her somehow. Later, we see him approaching who I guess are his parents. They're acting a little weird. The mother is the same one we saw stabbing herself with a fork earlier, standing behind a line of salt of some kind. Salt throughout many forms of media is depicted as being a symbol of protection from evil spirits, and it's clearly keeping them on one side of it. We see him step over it though, which is definitely a bad move because he's defiling the protection by doing that. Then we get confirmation that Principal Andrew is possessed, showing us he's for sure the one running downtown like the children run. He's clearly searching for someone or something, but we know that that's someone to be Miss Gandhi from when we previously saw him punch through the window. We also get to see why Gandhi was looking through the newspapered window. It seems she walked around to the back of the house she saw Alex enter enter and is peering through inside to see what's going on. What she sees is what I assume to be Alex's father lying in bed, since he was clearly possessed earlier in the trailer, but this alternatively could be Gladys too, since we know she's also living here. Then, once again, the next few shots play very quickly. First, we see Alex holed up in a bathroom in fear. Then we see what looks like a fucked up tree branch with hair on it. It has parts on it so sharp that just touching it draws blood on whoever it is holding it here. Then we see an officer looking down at his hands in surprise. This officer's name is Morgan, and we saw him driving a police car in the first trailer. Based off IMDb, the only character I think he could be is Paul, portrayed by Alden Ehrenreich. I'm not super convinced though, because they don't look exactly identical, but he's the only one who could fit here. Seeing him look down at his hand immediately after the person gets poked by a bleeding branch implies that he is going to become possessed by Gladys. Then we see the opposite side of the table from Alex's mom when she was stabbing herself, and that Alex's dad is also stabbing himself with a fork. Then, to prove to us that Alex's mom is really possessed, in case there was any amount of doubt within us, we see the reason he's holed up in his bathroom is because his mom chased him in there. Her eyes are bulging out and she's busted through the door with her head. So while she's clearly possessed, this makes you wonder why she is. Isn't Gladys related to Alex? Why is she taking control of her own family? Unless she isn't related to Alex and is just living at this house. The next few shots play extremely quickly. We see what we can assume is Gladys cutting off a piece of Alex's shirt. We know this is Alex because Gandhi was watching him leave school earlier when he was wearing the same shirt. We don't know for sure that this is Gladys though, but I think it's safe to assume it is her, because who the fuck else is gonna cut off a piece of string from someone in this movie? Also, right behind the two of them is clearly two more children watching them. The only thing is, why is she cutting this piece of string off? My only guess is it's probably for some kind of her ritual or whatever. Then we see a good close-up of Principal Andrew chasing someone in a gas station. His teeth are blacked and dirty, and the area around his mouth is black, meaning the person who is puking black and strangling someone is more than likely him. The shocking part about this trailer is that we see Officer Morgan from earlier jump over a kitchen counter to attack what looks like Gandhi, meaning that at some point he did in fact become possessed. We see the rest of the scene with Graf on the concrete with someone strangling him. Who this is, not too sure, but it does kind of look like it could be the police officer based off of the blue sleeves. Then we see the officer holding a shotgun, again indicating that he probably isn't on our side anymore. The last series of shots is someone coming out of a basement or closet, freaking the hell out of Miss Gandhi. She seems to be somehow inside of the Gladys house given the newspaper clippings on the wall. The trailer ends with a much clearer shot of the bell ringing. On the bell is clearly the number 6, which goes without saying that this 6 is typically associated with witchcraft, the devil, and demons. The symbol next to it is a bit more hard to piece out. It could be an upside down triangle, again pointing to Satanism, as we talked about heavily in Long Legs with it being the unholy trinity, or it could be a V. While the letter V doesn't have any type of biblical meaning, if this is the Roman numeral for 5, then it would make sense as the number 5 is seen to represent humanity. With that context, this means 5 is humanity and 6 is the devil. This perfectly explains the possession of the children and adults, as ringing the bell must summon some type of entity to possess the humans. Alright, so let's recap it here again. Alex Lilly is not living with Gladys alone, and in fact she may not even be related to them. It seems she has taken over their house and has somehow possessed his parents. The way that parents and people are possessed is by eating soup. Somehow, not sure how that works, but do not trust the soup. When possessed, these parents act extremely violent and will even harm themselves. The kids are somehow brought to this house once the bell is rung. The explanation for this must be that kids had a soup day in class or something of that nature. After their disappearance, Miss Gandhi is blamed as the scapegoat since it was only her class that disappeared and she had a previous incident at another school. A $50,000 reward is posted to find the kids. To clear her name, Gandhi is looking for what happened to the kids. To find his son, Mr. Graf is looking for what happened to the kids as well. A teenager named Anthony makes it to the house and runs away from it. A police officer, while initially chill, becomes possessed and begins attacking people in the town who are trying to find out the truth about what's going on. Somehow, Principal Andrew becomes possessed, kills someone, and begins to pursue Miss Gandhi just like the officer does. Gandhi has a nightmare where she finds that Alex must know what's going on and watches him leave school. Then, she follows him, finds the house where things are going wrong, and goes inside. Inside is Gladys, who is holding the kids in her basement for a ritual of some kind. Somehow, the kids turn on her and chase her out of the house, killing her. We seem to be quickly figuring out what is going on in this movie, or at least I'm pretty confident we are. The only things we don't know yet are how did Principal Andrew become possessed? What in the soup is possessing these kids? If Gladys isn't related to Alex, then who is she and why is she here? Why does she need children for a ritual? And what is the deal with that bloody stick that had hair on it? Everything would go dormant again until July 14th, when Weapons would drop something that would highlight many things for us. On their Instagram page, they would release a poster of all things that clearly highlights and draws attention to 4 things: the kids, the bell, the cans of soup, and a planted tree. The kids, we all know, become possessed and leave their homes and are crucial for the entire plot kicking off. The bell we discussed is likely what activates their possession and controls them to some degree. The cans of soup are what lead to their possession in some shape or fashion. But the tree is the one thing we don't understand just yet. Alongside the posters are individual videos to coincide with each key image on the poster. The trailer with the kids showcases a lot of footage we've already seen before. The bell showcases it being rung, leading to the possession of Principal Andrews. This shows us that Gladys must have activated his possession to pursue Gandhi. The can of soup shows us Alex feeding his parents soup. This confirms to us, in case we were confused, that they are in fact possessed. The thing that's strange is Alex clearly isn't possessed, but he is willingly complying with Gladys's plan to possess his parents. Why is that? And finally, the tree. We get to see it for the first time. The tree clearly hosts branches with the stick we saw earlier that had hair on it, and it's in the bedroom that Gandhi was looking into earlier. So that means that this is in no way Alex's dad. The person in the room Gandhi was looking into is in fact Gladys. So this tree and its branches must be a part of whatever it is her ritual is. A day later, the Maybrook missing website would update with a hot dog recipe. I have absolutely no fucking idea what this is supposed to even mean. Is Gladys turning the kids into hot dogs to eat them? There's nothing here we can really gain any meaning from unless you want to go and try to replicate this recipe, which isn't even an amazing recipe, to be honest. Once again, on Weapons Movie Instagram page, we got our next update on July 16th, a reel of a child grabbing cans of soup off the shelf. In the caption, it says to comment if you dare, as select users will receive a surprise. My girlfriend Juliet commented on this post, and out of 1,845 people, we were lucky enough to be chosen. The package came very quickly, and here is what happened. The can is all black with a QR code in it that takes us to a Maybrook missing. Alongside it is a Weapons branded can opener, which you can use to open the can. Once the soup has been opened, there is a lock of hair and a fork inside of it. We've seen the fork before, as it's what the parents stabbed themselves with, but the lock of hair is new, and I believe it's the key to it all. Strands of hair are being put in the soup that lead to them possessing people. Since it's blonde, the hair likely belongs to Alex's mom since she was blonde. Not only was this an awesome thing to receive in the mail, but it helped us put one last notch into the mystery. 2 days later, Maybrook Missing would update again. While initially it appears as if nothing has happened on the surface, in the source code there is something, finally. One of the running people recreated from hashtags and symbols. In the person are various names and sentences spelled backwards. Starting from the top, they are Elena Martinez, who we can see is the other kid on IMDb, Miss Justine Gandhi, of course being our titular teacher, Lucas Anderson, Bailey Kramer, Theo Graff, which refers to Mr. Graff's son, Matthew, Are You Watching? A nod to the streamed event from earlier this month, Bastian Sleet, which probably means Sebastian Sleet, Alex Lilly, who we all know is very important, Lisa Flores, Parker Lee, George Davis, Maybrook Elementary, Madeline McNulty, Mozan Thompson, Aria Taylor, Emma Williamson, Ryder Preciado, Jessica Miller, Carter Wilson, and Austin Smith. The names of the people who we know aren't possessed are normal, while the others are in reverse order. While this could be just to show us that they're possessed, it is possibly suggesting that there's no way back for them after possession. Regardless, outside of some names for who are confirmed missing children from the trailers, this update doesn't add very much for us. On the same day, Weapons would upload a phone call. It's the same conversation we heard earlier between Mr. Graff and the unknown figure of authority. As it turns out, this person is called Captain Ed, who is portrayed by Toby Huss, and is notably different than Officer Morgan. Here, he is defending Miss Gandhi from a very clearly upset Graff who wants answers, wants justice, and wants her arrested. On Warner Bros. Channel for the UK and Ireland, we got a trailer on July 25th dedicated to Anthony, the teenager we see entering Gladys's house. He seems to be getting arrested at the start of the trailer, and later we see him trying to open various car doors, obviously trying to break into them. He is calling about the $50,000 reward for the kids, as it turns out he knows where they are, the Gladys household. Then we see the orange shared version of Gladys on her way to enter Principal Andrew's office, meaning that when we saw her earlier, she was visiting the principal at school, likely because Alex's parents cannot visit. Anthony is camping outside when someone enters a tent and presumably takes him into the Gladys house, with it being Officer Morgan who captures him and takes him into this house, since that's the only person it probably could be that owns a cop car and would handcuff him. We also get to see that Gandhi is being chased in a gas station, meaning the person chasing her is none other than Principal Andrew from earlier. While this trailer didn't give us a ton, it did explain what Anthony's role in the story is. He is the one person looking for the reward since he seems to be in desperate need of it, and he might be one of the earliest characters to figure out what's going on in the city. In the final trailer for Weapons, we see that the person who was behind the basement door in the Gladys house was Anthony, with his eyes bulging and him charging at Gandhi, clearly possessed. We also get to see that Graf likely sees his son run away on the night the kids went missing, which would explain why he's chasing after Principal Andrew in the first official trailer, since he's running in a way similar to his son, assuming that they must be connected. The trailer shows us another look at the branches we saw earlier. Gladys is clearly wearing the outfit she wore earlier when visiting Principal Andrew, with the purple and little badge. The stick she's holding in her hand is either bloody or covered in soup. Around it is orange hair, the kind that was present on the wig she was wearing when she did visit Principal Andrew. Then she snaps the twig. I have no idea what this could mean, but it is clearly a part of her ritual, whatever that ritual is. And this trailer isn't the only thing we got either. Warner Bros. Would release a TikTok of what seems to be 3 different perspectives. On the top is Alex, purchasing cans of soup at the grocery store. In the middle is Gandhi, purchasing alcohol from the gas station. On the bottom is Principal Andrew, with whom I assume is his husband purchasing goods from the grocery store. Then we see 3 different side mirror perspectives. One is just someone driving around, the other is someone, likely Gandhi, watching Alex go home, and the third is Andrew chasing someone, again likely Gandhi. The next is Graf passing a gas station, the same one Gandhi seems to get attacked at, Gandhi at school, and Officer Morgan. After that is Morgan investigating some lockers at the school, then Alex is sitting in class, and Gandhi at the parent-teacher conference. 3 different times we see people wake up, 3 different times we see people walking around, with the bottom one seeming to be the most important. This has got to be Gladys. The only thing is, she seems ridiculously old here compared to the other times we see her, with her head nearly balding and there being a slight waddle in her step and very short strands of hair falling off of her scalp. This is alarming. Why is she so old here? Every other time we see her, she's probably in like her 60s or 70s, but here she looks like she could be like over 100 years old. Then we see 3 different perspectives of what seems to be Principal Andrew choking 3 different people: his husband, Gandhi, and Graf. I thought earlier this was the officer choking Graf, but seeing them side by side, it's clear this must be Andrew, given the sleeve and the context of the other 2 clips. In the next perspective, we see that Graf must have gone into the gas station and is trying his best to save Gandhi from Principal Andrew. In the middle perspective, a lady we haven't seen before tries to attack Gandhi for some reason. Not too sure what this one means or who she is. So, through these trailers, we learned Anthony becomes possessed, Andrew killed his husband, Graf saves Gandhi from Andrew, the story seems to take place from multiple perspectives, and that Gladys actually might be old as shit. This is where the trailers end as of the time of writing this video. So, let's see what's going on one final time at Maybrook Missing. When you open the website, you are immediately met with 3 children: Lisa Flores, Lucas Anderson, and Matthew Graff, which is really funny because whoever was in charge of this update used the wrong names for 2 of the kids, because in the campaign so far and in the movie, the names have been Lisa Flores and Lucas Anderson, according to trailers. Not sure why they messed this up, but alright. We are told where they were last seen and then shown a map. The map forms a triangle of disappearances around what we can assume is the Gladys house, just again reiterating if we were confused that they all went to one place when they went missing. The triangle, again, possibly leading to Satanism and the unholy trinity that we were discussing earlier, always linking back to Satanism. On the website, the Maybrook Missing homepage has been altered to have certain words with big red letters. When you put these red letters together, it reads, "Tickets on sale now?" What? That's what it reads? Anyways, finally, there's an official weapons playlist, which when you click on the 217 hyperlink, it takes you to Spotify, where you are met with a playlist of 34 songs, all of them being 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. While Juliet went through them and did find some similarities between the songs, they seem very disconnected from the rest of the marketing that I don't think they likely matter, which I could be totally wrong here, and these could be very important. And that's it for the weapons campaign. Wow. I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. After sinking hours into the near unlimited depths of Longlake's Birthday Murders ARG, I expected Maybrook Missing to measure up to that in scale and depth. They've plugged it a few times on various socials, and it's clear they want this to be an in-universe website for the town of Maybrook. But while it wants to be an ARG so badly, it isn't trying to be one at all. We could maybe get some lore about Satanism or witchcraft to help set up Gladys. They could maybe share some about Gandhi's previous incident at school. Maybe even some controversy with the police to add to the officer becoming a puppet and eventually going after people in the town. Hell, a recall on soup could work, or even a book about gardening for the tree. Something, anything would have sufficed. Instead, the Maybrook Missing website is mainly just advertising for the movie. The only thing of importance that really came from it is the very first update for the website with the barbarian connections that also help to explain there likely being a basement involved in Weapon's story. The breaking news with the parents eating soup was pretty interesting, but after that, it feels like they kind of gave up. The rest of it is imagery or videos we've already seen or things that have already been repeated or told to us multiple times in the marketing, and it lost me entirely when the website spelled out tickets on sale now. Like, are you kidding me? If this is meant to be an in-universe website, why are the people of Maybrook going to buy tickets for this movie? If you can't tell, I'm frustrated. It is possible that after I've written this video, they update the website, add more depth to it, but right now it ends up just being incredibly uninteresting, which is such a bummer when we had the Bring Her Back Angel tapes earlier this year, or even the 28 Years Later website. This had the potential to be so much more. Regardless, even if the ARG was lackluster, I think the trailers end up being so simple that we can easily spell out a lot about what is going on in this film. Unlike with the Longlegs video, I'm actually really confident about what I think is going on in Weapons, so here is what I think will happen. Gladys Lilly seems to be a very old Satanist of some kind, crafting rituals in a boarded up house that likely isn't her own. The house probably belongs to Alex Lilly and his parents, but for whatever reason, Alex is complying with Gladys and aiding the possession of his parents. Her rituals involve a tree with extremely sharp edges and cans of soup. It is very likely that these cans of soup are the direct cause of possession for people in the town, with her more than likely planting strands of hair into them. This possession lay dormant until it is activated when she rings a bell. Soup is a pretty universal dish, so it could be easily explained through the movie how the kids came to eat the soup. How we plan to explain an entire class eating and being affected by this soup, I'm not too sure. Since Gandhi is their teacher, as I mentioned earlier, maybe she just has a soup day for her students. Regardless, the bell is rung and it lures them into Gladys's house, where she hides them in the basement, similar to the one in Barbarian. Gladys does this for the purpose of whatever her rituals are. She needs children, she uses soup, and she has a fucked up little tree. Conveniently for her, the class she went after happens to be a teacher with a previous incident under her, so people are very quick to say she must be involved. From this point, the movie as shown in the trailers seems to primarily focus on three characters. Miss Gandhi, who is the teacher of the kids, Archer Graff, who is the father of one of the kids, Principal Andrew, who is the principal of the school, and it also seems to minorly focus on a teenager named Anthony, the kid named Alex we mentioned earlier, and a police officer named Paul Morgan. Since Gandhi is the teacher of the classroom that disappeared, she needs to find the kids to prove she isn't involved and clear her name. Since Mr. Graff's son went missing, he wants to find out what happened to his boy and bring him back home safely. Principal Andrews is responsible for the school, thus he wants his kids back safe and his parents all happy. Anthony seems to be homeless or in a bad spot in life, and after seeing the reward for the missing children, desperately tries to find out what happened to them so he can reap the benefits of it. Officer Morgan wants to get to the bottom of what happened in town so his city can be safe again. And lastly, Alex has to deal with his parents being possessed and potentially his grandmother being a psychopath. If she really is his grandmother. I'm kind of doubting that they're related. I'm pretty sure the movie goes in this series of events. It seems at some point, Officer Morgan is possessed by Gladys and begins to silence people in the town for her. Since Anthony is seen in a squad car and then later dragged into the house while handcuffed, it is very likely that Morgan is the one that captured him. Principal Andrew becomes possessed after grocery shopping with his husband, likely from purchasing a can of cursed soup, and then kills his husband and begins to pursue Gandhi. Gandhi runs for her life when Graff comes to rescue her. From here, I'm not really sure the turn of events. It seems Gandhi is attacked by the officer, who I assume loses, and that Graff is also attacked by Officer Morgan, but we don't know the outcome of that one really. At some point, Gandhi has a nightmare that Alex is the key to all of this. So she goes to school the next day, follows him home to his house, and discovers the truth about the missing children and Gladys. For some reason, the children turn on Gladys and chase her out of her house, where they kill her and bring an end to her reign of terror. And that's what I think happened based off many assumptions formed through going and watching a myriad of trailers, teasers, and going to the website. For all I know, everything I said just could be entirely wrong. I'm much more matter of fact on this one compared to Longlegs, but that's because I'm pretty confident with this one. A lot of the trailers showcased the same evidence, pointed things in the same direction, and ultimately continually helped support that this is how the series goes down somehow. The only things I'm not too sure about are why Gladys is doing this, and what is the purpose of the tree? Why does she break branches of trees? Why are the branches so sharp? Why is there a strand of hair on this tree branch? Does the can of soup for sure work the way I think it does? Is this tree some connection to an eldritch god that feeds off belongings of children? What god or demon does Gladys worship? Of course, this is all under the assumption that she's practicing a religion of some kind. She could totally just be a witch or a demon herself. I guess only time will tell. Another observation that I had that isn't really too related to the marketing because it's just based off the trailer, I noticed that the kids, when they're running down the street on a poster, it looks a lot like a family tree. So I'm wondering if by one of the kids being possessed or something like that, it leads to a series of possession through hereditary means. But there's not a lot to really back that. That's just something that I happened to notice on one of the posters. Hopefully this video was able to bring you some interesting perspective on the film. Even if I am disappointed with how simplistic this ad campaign ended up being, I'm pretty excited for the movie and I still hope it's very good.